I hope you're still good. And in this video, this will be a very, unstructured video because I just want to document something that I'm building. It's really stupid and really basic for now, but yeah, I just really want to document that instead of writing a readme, writing words and everything. So if I can just create a video like this and then just put it on YouTube, and then later when I want to write a readme or something, then I'll just come back to this and then just look at what I was talking about. So in this case, I'll divide the video into into two parts. I'll first start with the non-technical side, and then go to the technical side, because I'm assuming that there might be people who are just curious on what I'm building. So I don't really need to start with the overwhelming stuff first for those people, and then so I'll just start with the non-technical parts and then move to the technical parts for those who want to see and understand what's going on with the thing. But it's still primitive. But let's start with running the program. By the way, I came up with this project because each and every semester we let's say you're done with your exams and you just want to see what your average is, right? So you want to see what your average is, and not just the average. You want to calculate your weighted average. That means you need your mark, which you get from your academic record, as well as the credits. So my university doesn't really show you your weighted average across the years or across the semesters. So I really wanted something that is going to store my marks as well as the credits that I'm having and all that stuff. So, and then I was like, okay, maybe I can go online and then calculate my weighted average. But after my second year, I started seeing that as tedious, because I had to, let me see if I can show you something. I had to go to, let's say, weighted average calculator. So what I was saying is, each and every semester I would come here and enter grades and then the credits for each and every grade for that module. This was fine for the first 2-3 semesters. So first year and then maybe up until first semester there. And then it started getting tedious because now the modules were getting more, right? So you now had 20 modules, 25 modules, and now you are nearing 30 modules, which means each and every semester I would have to come here, enter all the modules each and every time. So first semester I would enter probably 6, and then second semester I would come back entering 12, and then in the next semester and come back and enter 20 or something modules. So it was getting tiring because I couldn't save the grades, basically. So the grades and the weights or the credits. So I was like, okay, let me just build something that stores my grades as well as the credits for each and every module. And I also added the third column for module name, so that I know, okay, that this is this module, right? So that's where this thing comes from, because I didn't want to always come to this website and then calculate my average, my weighted average, because I realized, or I learned, that they don't really use the mean, the normal mean, to calculate your average. They use weighted average. So the modules that have more credits or the higher weight or more weight, I'm not sure if that's the correct way, the one with higher credits weigh more when they're calculating the average. And I was like, oh, okay, so let me just build something. And then that's where this idea is coming from. So now let me just show you what happens. So I won't really add another module because I've added all the modules. So it's basic. So you give it the module name, you give it the credits, and then you give it the mark. So for example, in this case, it's business management, and then you give it like 12, right? So you give it 12 for credits, and then you give it the mark, in this case 75. And then after that, after all your modules, then it calculates your weighted average using like a simple formula to calculate your weighted average. So now these are all my modules from first year up until now. I'm in my third year now, so yeah, it's a lot of modules, and then yeah, you have your weighted average there. So that's it for the non-technical side. I'm not sure if I'm leaving anything else, but that's what this thing is doing. So it's getting your module name, credits, and then your mark. You add the module, and then it calculates your weighted average for you, and then it shows the modules in this nice table where you have your module, credits, and then mark. And then the following section is for those who are a bit technical, right? So if you understand like languages like Java or C Sharp, or any C related languages or any other languages, I feel like you understand if you are inclined to programming, or any if you're inclined to programming basically. Now let's look at what's happening behind the hood. So what I can do is, let me just start with where I started, right? So I will just take you through my thinking process when I was starting this. So first I wanted to create the UI first, right? So I didn't really write the code for the UI. As you can see, I'm using JavaFX, and I'm using Maven as my build. So if you don't know what Maven is, don't worry about it, but I'm using a JavaFX. A JavaFX helps you build like graphical user interfaces, right? So I really didn't write this code because it's just labels, text fields. So I was using Scene Builder. Let me just show you something. Okay, so I was using Scene Builder. This is the one that comes with IntelliJ. I wasn't using this one. I was using the one that I installed, but you can use this one as well. It works just fine. It's just that some things don't work the way I like. So yeah, if you don't want to open another program, you can use the one that I used, the one I installed, or you can just use this one because you can drag and drop like buttons, you can drag and drop text fields and all that stuff. So yeah, I started with the UI. I'm using an anchor pane here. So an anchor pane, an anchor pane. Yeah, an anchor pane. And and then I have these labels, I have text fields, I have this button, I have this table view, and just a bunch of labels, just a bunch of labels. So that's where I started. I started with the UI before I could write like any other code. Like I just wanted to see how it would look like, and then I liked this idea, and then I moved to, I think the next part I wrote let me see, I think I wrote the module class, right? Because I'm trying to follow the MVC approach. As you can see, under the resources, I have the view. That's where we wrote this UI, so the main view. So this is what you're seeing. So this view, and then using the MVC approach, I also now have the model. The model, that's where you want a representation of what you want to store in a database. So in this case, we are storing modules, right? So we're storing these modules, and then we also want a controller that is going to control what the user sees and what happens behind the scenes, like the database and all that stuff. So now let's look at the module class. It shouldn't be too complicated because it just represents the stuff that we see in that table. So we have a module that has an ID. In this case, it has module name, it has credits, and it has mark. So that's what we have for now. And then we have a constructor. And as you can see in the constructor, I'm not really receiving the ID because I want the database that I'm using. We'll talk about the database later, but I want the database that I'm using to auto increment, right? So I don't really need the user to give me the ID. I want to generate it like automatically. So this is the database that I'm using. I'm using SQLite because, this is just a simple thing. I wouldn't want something big. So I wanted something lightweight. So yeah, I'm receiving module name, credits, and then marks. So each and every time when we say add module, so we are basically saying, give me module name, give me the credits, give me the mark, and then we create that module. And then these ones I just created. I mean, they are auto created or auto generated using the IntelliJ. I think you say alt insert, and then it gives you these options, and then you say generate getter and setter, and then it just gives you everything for the fields that you have. So in this case, I got everything for each and every field that I had in this case. And I wasn't really sure if I was going to use these two because, like I said, I thought, you know, SQLite is going to handle that for me, but somehow I used the set ID, and yeah, I guess we'll see if I remember to talk about set ID. Like we'll see. And then get ID, I haven't found the use for it, but we'll see because this thing is still new. Nothing crazy yet. And then we have other getters and setters for the other fields. And then I also created a toString method for debugging purposes. You also get it by saying alt insert, and you're gonna get like generate toString, and it gives you this toString basically. So if you wanna see the modules, let's say maybe you have your table is not working and you wanna debug, then yeah, you use something like this and then see what happens, yeah, behind the scenes. And then I think the next part for this was me connecting the view. So the part that you see, like the app that you see when you run the thing, and the module itself. So we now come to the controller, right? In the controller, that's where a lot of work happens because now we are trying to connect those two domains. We're trying to connect the view as well as the representation of our database. So in this case, we just declared some fields. I wanted to use injection. I don't know why I stopped using the inject. Oh, I think I clicked. Wait, let me see. I think I did something like alt shift enter, and then it generates the fields for you automatically. So yeah, I just love things that are auto-generated because I don't want to write a lot of code basically. So these were auto-generated by that idea that I just told you about. And so these are the fields, and as you can see, we have the table view that you saw that other side. So this is a representation of the table view, and then we have the table columns, right? And then we also have the label average. It's very important that you have this label as a field here. As you can see, I don't have labels I don't have a representation of labels of the other labels like your module name and thing. But because the average changes, we need to have access to its reference. So that's why I have this thing, so that I can have access to that label, the average label, so that when I want it to change, it can change, right? And in this case, I will talk about this object. I'll talk about this object later, but this is an object that we're going to use to talk to the database, right? Because first of all, we don't want to write SQL in this controller. And when I talk about the database class, you'll see that we don't really also want to write SQL in that class. So in this case, we're going to use this object to talk to SQLite, and then yeah, you'll see what that is supposed to look like. And then we now have an observable list. So this is a list that is used in our table view. So our table view requires that we use an observable list instead of like other lists such as array lists or other things. So in this case, we're going to be using an observable list, and yeah, and then we now have an initialize method, right? And then now we have an initialize method. So in the initialize method, this is the first thing that runs when our program is executed. So we create our columns. So in this case, we bind, not really binding, but we're saying we create the columns basically. So we create the module column, the credits column, and as well as the mark column. And then after that, we are going to set the table using the modules that we get from this object, the one that I said I'll talk about. So this object is going to give us the modules, and then once we have the modules, then we're going to set those modules to be in the table. But we know that when we are running this for the first time, let's say you haven't added any modules yet, it will be empty. But because we are using a database, and in this case I am using a database and I've already added modules, that means when we say go and get us modules, it's going to get us those modules that exist in the database. So the grades.db, we are going to get those modules, and then we store them in this modules variable, and then we set those modules as items of our table basically. I hope that makes sense. And then after setting everything up, then we calculate the average, right? Straightforward. And then as you saw on the app itself, there was that button of add module. So this is a method that runs when a person clicks add module. So I'm not really gonna go into this because yeah, we're saying okay, get me the module name, get me the credits, and then get me the mark, and then after that create a module object. After creating a module object, and then we store it in a database. This is us storing in a database because this is the object that I said we'll talk about. And then after storing it in a database, then we set it to the modules table. And remember, this is the observable list, right? Right, and then we calculate the average, and then we clear everything because after adding a module and then calculating the new average, then we want to clear all our text boxes, and that's it. And then this is just us making sure that everything runs properly, and if it doesn't run properly, then we just say okay, something went wrong. In this case, we're going to say invalid input, or you can say something like credits and mark must be numeric in case someone gives us a text for a credit and all that stuff. And then the calculate average is very straightforward because it's a weighted average. Although I said calculate average, it's a weighted average. So we first need to get the weighted total, right? So by multiplying the mark by the credits, after getting the weighted total, then we're going to divide by the total credits. So if you had like 6 modules and they were all like 12 credits each, that means you're going to multiply each mark by 12, and then once you get that total, you're going to divide it by 12 times 6 basically. I'm not sure if that makes sense. And then you get the weighted average. You get that as a weighted average, and then that average is now the new average that is going to be presented on that label. You remember when I said that label, we need to change it when a new average is calculated. So in this case, when after calculating the average, we now set the text of that label to be the new average that we have, and then or else set it to 0 just in case there is nothing in the list. Then just set it to 0%. There is no average. And yeah, I think we are halfway. Wow, I've been explaining a lot of things. So let me see what else I did. Now let's talk about the database real quick. The database is really there isn't really a lot of things in the database. The only thing that we have here is we are connecting to the database, right? So we're connecting to the database using the connection string. So as you can see, we have the connection string. I won't really get into this because, you know, it's just, I don't really like database stuff, but yeah, so we are saying we're getting the connection string, and in this case, it's using SQLite, and then we are connecting, we are trying to connect, just so in case it doesn't connect, then we're going to catch that exception. I should have written a proper message here, but yeah, I just used the one that was was suggested, and then I just used the print track stack trace, and but yeah, it was connected successfully, so no really, you don't really need to worry. And after connecting the thingy, after connecting the to the database, you'd want to use that connection to create a table. In this case, we're creating a modules table. So we have the ID, which is auto increment. Remember when I said we want SQLite to handle the ID property? So this is where that thing is being handled. And then we have the module, we create these fields basically, and then try catch. So basically we're just creating a table as well as connecting to the database, right? So nothing crazy. Then the module DAO, this is the module data access object. So this is the class that we're going to use to get the stuff that we want. So this is actually the communication between our database and our app. So we don't really want each class to like have the SQL stuff and all that business. So in this case, we are going to write SQL that is going to give us the data. So in this case, for example, let's say we want the modules, then we are going to select all from the modules table, right? Do you get what I'm saying? And then, yeah, so this is where we write most of our SQL. So if we want modules, we just say, okay, this dot get modules, and then that dot add module. And then it will know what it's supposed to do, because we will give it a module and it will just do that, right? So yeah, I think that's where we are right now. Let me see if there's something else that I didn't talk about. Academic tracker. This comes with the installation part. So when you install, they give you this thing. So the only thing that you might want to change is probably the class name, because I think it was hello thing. And also you would want to change the path of this view, right? Because I also deleted some folders in the resources folder. And then I also changed the dimensions of the starting app. So yeah, I also changed that, as well as the academic tracker, the title. So I also changed the title here. And then what else? Let me see. These packages, I haven't used them yet, the service and the util. I'm planning to use them like later. I just wanted to get something that works. And then as time goes, then I start doing other things. So in the util and the services packages, I will be writing other code here. And yeah, let me see if I'm leaving anything else. Right, because now I want to talk about the challenges that I'm facing now, because now although my thing runs properly, let's try to run it again. Although my program runs properly, I want to create like an icon for the desktop, right? I don't always want to come to IntelliJ every time I want to run this thing and then add a module. I wanted to have an icon that I can just click and then it opens the app, and then yeah, I add a module and then close it. I don't necessarily need to open IntelliJ. So I've been trying to do that, and yeah, that's where I'm stuck at right now, because as you can see, I also have these folders called the installer. There's a lot of stuff. The executable is not really running and all that business. And then I was doing this other research, and then these jar files are also not running. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. But let me see. Yeah, but if I run it from IntelliJ, it runs fine and it doesn't really delete anything. Oh yeah, I don't have the deleting functionality yet. So, but what I mean is everything gets accessed from the database, and everything, what I mean, the basic things, the necessary things are working just fine. So adding the module and then getting me the weighted average. So this is working just fine. And then now I'm just trying to make sure that I get that icon and put it on the thing. So if anyone knows how to do that, like, because I've been trying, I think I spent hours trying to do that and it's not really working. It gives me errors such as like such as failed to launch JVM, something like that. So yeah, if you know how to do that, like simply, like not all this business of creating installer, target folders and all this and all this stuff. If you know how to create that, then you can put it in the comments, and then yeah, I'll just try it out. But I'll be trying it out maybe in the following days and then see if I succeed or not. If I don't, then I'll just continue with other functionalities such as deleting, editing a module, and what else. Yeah, I think my next step is to adding a deleting feature, adding editing, and then maybe like predicting how, let's say for example you want to maintain your average. In this case I have an 80% average. Let's say I wanted to maintain that 80% average in the last modules that I have, because since this is my final year, so I want something that is predictive. So if I say okay, I want to maintain the 80% average and I'm left with like 4 modules, what average should I get for those 4 modules? And then it should tell me that, oh, you need like 75 or another 80 and all that stuff. So that's where this thing is going. So yeah, but so far this solves my problem, right? It solves my problem, and I think I'm happy where we are. So yeah, I'll see you guys some other time.